Alright, I'd like to begin by thanking you all for being here on time, I have to say. I know some of you are students of the business consultancy course, right? And your professor requested that you leave 7 sharp, so if few students step out at 7, it's understandable. Feel free to go to the closest exit. Alright, I'd like to begin by welcoming our international guest, Professor Christine Blondel. Thank you. Professor in Wendell, International Center for Family Enterprise, INSEAD, right?
Yeah.
And you might want to begin by telling us about that program, before we'll do a round of introductions. And here, Ms. Dalia Ibrahim, CEO, Nahdet Masr, a company founded in 1938, hardcore family business for generations to come, 3rd generations, right? And one of the reasons we do these debates is because we'd like always to exchange views between, I'm sure everyone has practice and theory on different levels, but it's a very nice way that we can share different insights on a certain common topic from different viewpoints. And this is why we're here today. And we'll begin by a slight introduction. Everyone will introduce the business or what they do. And then I'll ask, I have like some questions prepared. 5 minutes and 5 minutes. We should be done by that round in 40 minutes, and then the remaining 20 minutes would be to take questions from the floor, okay? All right, do you mind please introducing what you've been doing in this area?
Yes, actually there's I'm sorry, my voice is a little bit down because of the, traveling, change of temperature, etc. More than 20 years ago, 22, 23 years ago, 300-year-old family business decided to give money to INSEAD in order to study family business. So this family has been in business together since 1704. And so they wanted us to do research and classes in order to understand better the family business. So we've created a class for MBA students. That's how I learned a lot. Well, I was the one, kind of managing our activities for the first 10 years. And we started an executive program for families that lasts 1 week. And we wrote a few case studies, interviewed a lot of people, wrote an article on fair process, etc., etc. So that's what we've been doing.
How old is the center?
The center is now about 22 years.
Please introduce your company, what it does, because
my name is Dalia Ibrahim. I am the CEO of Nahdet Masr Publishing House. As Sherwat just said, the company was established 81 years ago. I'm the 3rd generation. We started by one company, by my grandfather, and then my father, of course, and my uncles were running the company. My father took over the responsibility fully 24 years ago. And I started with him when he came back. I just graduated from school. And we opened up 5 new companies. So now the group of Nahdet Masr Publishing is a total of 6 companies specialized in publishing fiction, non-fiction, children books, adults books, educational books, curriculums from K to 12, university textbooks, international partners, more than 150 partners, digital content, animation, magazines, and so on. So actually, we make an integrated solution through the group of the 6 companies. The last one I'm the founder of the last one, which is Ventures, Education Venture. It helps startups specialized in the field of education and culture, and it is, up to now, it is the only venture capital and specialized incubator accelerator in the field of education and culture.
Very impressive again. All right, so the question which I'd like to take both your takes on it is that, is there, I don't believe in should I or should I not, right? But when is the right time that you believe someone should join or consider joining the family business? About time, is it a matter of timing or reason?
Well, okay, you want me to start? Okay, the theory first, and then we'll look at the real practice. Okay, we tend to recommend participants to, or young students or young people, to take some time to work outside the family business if they can first, for a few years. First, it gives them self-confidence. It allows them sometimes to be also promoted, so it gives them more credibility when they join a family business. So that's a theory we like to recommend. I would say up to 5 years business experience. Now, some family businesses, it makes more sense to join immediately. If it's, like distribution company, you can work in the stores, etc., etc. Some companies, it's the opposite. You should work as much as possible. Like if it's a holding company with a lot of investments, it makes sense to have actually worked more outside before joining it. But our general recommendation, and again there are exceptions to the rule, is that it will give you more self-confidence, it will give you more credibility, and you can bring more new ideas if you have worked outside. This is the theory.
I totally agree with the theory. It seems not going to be a debate, it's going to be an alignment.
Does it happen?
Yes, I'm going to tell you
Okay.
what is happening on the ground. For the second generation, actually this was not clear. We have all of us, either we as brothers and sisters or my cousins. Of course, my father's dream was to have everyone to join the company, and he didn't want anyone to start outside and then come back. He felt that this is your place, you should start here, start joining from day one. Later on, in the last maybe 5 years or so, no, it is very clear that any family member from the fourth generation, because now all the third generation who want to join are already in the company or the group of companies, but for the fourth generation, it is a must to work outside in a very prestigious company, not from the point of prestigious for the name, but I mean for the learning experience. So we have to get the best caliber. We should not take all the fourth generation in the company or the group, but we are going to select the best employee who is going to add to the company and will be of a real value, and of course he or she should be interested from the very beginning.
Maybe to reflect on that, could the reasoning you mentioned about whether the company is large enough and became like more like a conglomerate of companies at that time, then you should go outside, and building on what you said for the fourth generation, is it a matter of if they come in too soon, you, from a corporate governance perspective, it won't look good in front of your employees that your kid just came in and joined the big lines first. So you want him to validate there, and that's why it happens at the fourth generation at the global level. But if it's a store or something, it's fine. You join the line. Is that it, or is something else at work?
Do you want to there might be some of that, of course. If the business is very small, it's much more difficult to ask you to work outside first. But I think it's more a matter of, again, self-confidence, what you bring to the table, being heard, being taken seriously. So I think that's why outside experience is interesting. However, again, sometimes it's not, but I know very large companies where they're happy if family members join as soon as possible. One of our biggest family business in France in retail, or I can think of an automotive company also in France, where they don't believe there should be a rule, a strict rule to forbid you to enter as early as possible, because they're afraid that if you start working elsewhere, you might do your career elsewhere and never come back.
Of course, when you answer any question related to the family business, yes, there is the science, but there are some exceptions. So sometimes it really depends. Coming back to this question, if we, especially these days, if we send our kids early enough in our business during summer to have some internship in the company, this will give them two things. Give them the loyalty and to get to know the place and so on. And during university time, they should do internship outside the group or the company, so they can have the exposure the family is searching for. But if it is required that after they finish immediately, they should join, which I do not prefer for several reasons. Reason one, it's not only about the employees, because you can ask the family member to start, but from the very basic line. So they can start just as normal employee, they can take the letter, and this is the best way ever. You have to do it like this, not put them on the top. But even if so, when they graduate and they just come to your company, and this is the first company they join, they don't have any other experience. They didn't measure their capabilities. And this is the point. They might feel that they are super, they understand everything, they are perfect, and other people are looking at them, you are not that smart. You are doing a lot of troubles. And maybe they complain even about the company and the way and the system, but they have never been in another place even to have this added value. So when they work outside, they can understand more how the business is like, and definitely they will add to their company when they come back, and they understand the professionalism, which is the key point.
May I add to that?
Yeah, one of the risks for family members is to never receive honest feedback on their performance. So if you work outside, you receive honest feedback. I used to work at P&G, Procter & Gamble, and one of the guys in my team came from the very famous Bic company. Bic is Biros, and his last name was Bic. And I said, why are you working here, not in the family business, you know? And he said, oh no, there are too many family members there. That was the only conversation we had to have on that topic. Otherwise, he was just any employee at P&G. So I didn't care if his last name was Bic or something else. So I could give him honest feedback, which is something very hard to have in a family business when you're a family member. And for me, that's one of the things we insist a lot when we work with families on those topics. On the charter for family employees, is it okay not to work in a family business? Is it okay to be told you have to go and work elsewhere? Even if you have already worked there, is it okay to say you're not performing, you should do something else? Is it okay, not to apply? Because you mentioned second generation, everybody would work there, no discussion. So is it okay to say I'm not interested? All those kinds of questions you have to ask yourself. And very importantly, how can we give feedback to family members? So working outside is a way. That's what I heard in what you said, to receive feedback.
Right. So confidence and validation, that you can make it out there. So when you come in, you believe that this is, no one's trying to smooth the way for you, that you're doing it the hard way. All right, so let's pick up on a couple of points you mentioned. That what if you're, the CEO, the family wants you to join, and you as a family member or newly graduate or someone who went and began a career want to resist doing so? Is there any middle line? Is there any somewhat way to get involved? Spin-offs, use the family name? I don't know. Formats are different forms that someone can join and be there but not there.
I think you have that in your...
Yeah.
You want to answer?
Yes, I always answer.
Oh, it's embarrassing. I'm very embarrassed. Thank you very much anyway. I think we often don't realize that there are many, many roles in the family business, and but it's a tough conversation to have, by the way. And one of the key messages I'd like to convey is that communication is absolutely key in the family business, and it's sometimes very difficult. So it's very difficult to convey that it's not your first interest to work there. But there are many other roles where you can contribute. As a family member, if you form a family council, if you help organize family meetings, ultimately when you're a bit older, as a board member, it could be an option as well, non-executive board member, etc., etc. So there are other ways to contribute than to be, operational.
Okay. Again, for us, as I said, that for the second generation, yes, they had to take over, but my father was a businessman by nature. So he worked for a while in the mother company, and then he started opening up other companies, real estate businesses and so on. So at a certain point, he left Nahdet Masr to his brothers, but he has been doing other things for the whole family. When we come to the third generation, his dream was to have everyone in the family joining. This curve, actually there is a learning curve in anything in life. So he started by, I want all of them to be committed. When time passes, some of them have been very active, others were not that active. One of the family members decided that, yes, this is my father's wish, but I tried, I don't want to continue in the company, I want to have my own life, and this was still accepted for the third generation. And some of the third generation members have been very active, have been promoted, have been heading companies in the group, and others have been taking this as a relaxing job, so they have not have been promoted, almost kept in the same position with lower salaries. They are here, fine. We don't depend so much on them. But they are there, they are happy and we are happy. Yeah, because they are not in a key positions. So we gave this room for the different family members from one side. From the other side also, we are encouraging as a family the idea of entrepreneurship generally, and we are encouraging even the family members to open up new companies. And actually my father, he's a real leader. This is not what I am saying, this is all over the place. Whoever knows our story knows quite well that this man is really superior and he's doing things totally different. He made the delegation very early, he made a clear succession plan, he handed over the companies for the third generation, and he's watching now for 7 years from the whole thing, not interfering, but just giving advices, opening up the opportunity for family members to open new companies. But actually what he's after is that we should always stay together. So if you want to do any business inside the education cultural thing, fine. If you want to do anything else in other industries, then fine. We as a family will study this together, and then we will support you with this company, and all of us will be part of it to dilute the risk and even to gain the benefits, all of us. So always we will be one hand. So we respect the differences, and this is very important. Coming to some families where sometimes it's a must, yani it's the father and he has only one child. So it's either or. And of course, part of the maturity is that you have to put all options. Yani I personally have 3 kids. I never put a pressure on them to join Nahdet Masr. But since they were kids, I used to get them to the business, all the major events. We have won 40 awards, so they feel very proud of Nahdet Masr, and their mother, thank God, yani. So they got attached. Not the 3 of them want to join Nahdet Masr later on. 2 of them are dreaming of working outside, studying internationally and working in multinational companies, but they want to come back. A 3rd one, no, he wants to build his own career. All this is excellent. So the company should prepare itself for a family member or non-family member. Yeah. You must be ready.
I think you have to comment on so many points that were raised, right? There's a lot there.
I think the entrepreneurship aspect is very important, that you, and some families do what you do is to encourage people to have their own businesses. Also, that can be part of the whole family business or not. I think this notion that you mentioned, you used the word option. I think this is a key word, option. You have more options than you think. When I was taking care of our MBA course on family business, our students had always this question about, should I join the family business or not? My parents are expecting me to join. And I remember one of them was a single child, only child. And the parents had a small travel agency, and they wanted him to join. And the father was sick, and he was the only son. So I have to join. And he felt very pressured, and he wanted to do something else. So what can you do? And the good thing, options. If you open up the conversation, they realized that yes, he was the only inheritor in theory, but in practice, he had a cousin who was extremely interested to take over the travel agency. And so by discussing, they actually reached the conclusion that the cousin could actually take over, and the son, the only child, could actually do something else and do his dreams. And I think it's very important to consider you always have more options than you think. But you have to be open-minded, like you are. And so, because otherwise if you say, my kids all have to be in the business and it's going to be my oldest or this or that, then it can be a recipe for disaster. I have the example of a UK company where it was always older son is going to take over. And one day, the older son said, I'm not interested. I want to be in academia. I'm not interested in the business. So the rest of the family was like, but we were all prepared not to do anything in the business. So what can we do? So they had to kind of catch up, So openness and options, I think, is very important.
Let's move on to how to prepare them to join the family business in terms of maybe, well, we talked about setting them out, maybe for the 5-year number came out often enough, but is what's offered in higher education in terms of MBA program and executive MBAs, are they suitable tools to complement it, or do they have to target a program or research center that focuses on family business? Could they just go into mainstream education, or do they have to have specialized education?
Well, I'm coming from a business school with a very good, like you, MBA and the MBA program, I'm going to say the most important for me is the professional experience. So, the MBA and the MBA are fantastic ways to take some time off and to reflect for me. So, and to meet new people and to open other options. And so that would be wonderful. It is true that it's extremely useful for people from family businesses to go to do an MBA where you have courses on family business, where you will meet other family business people, and where you will have the opportunity. I don't know if you do that as part of the project. We had a project in our MBA course where you had to work on your family business in a team, so you would have the outside view. That would be extremely useful. So yes, if you have the choice from family business viewpoint, if you have the choice between an MBA or an EMBA without anything about family business, and one with some courses, opportunities to meet people from family business, I think I would definitely choose that. Now, another way to use the MBA is to say, I've been working, or the EMBA, I've been working in a family business for a while, and I'm not 100% sure of my next steps. So I take some time off and I reflect. So it can be before joining or when you have already joined and you're not so sure. So one of our students, for instance, she had worked from very early on, from the beginning with her father, and she took this opportunity to reflect back, and then she decided, I want to be non-executive, to contribute with my dad, but it's not going to be my executive career, for instance. But she could have, some people decide the opposite, of course.
Okay, I want to reflect on something.
You're a graduate. You have to tell them that you graduated from the executive MBA, right?
I want to reflect on several things concerning the having for example, master degrees or so on. This is useful, but you have to select the right time. And for me, after I finished the School of Business, I had a master degree. I finished it in 1999. I was working at the same time, and when my father decided to hand over, and it is not only was his selection, but also we got a very professional consultant, and we made a psychometric assessment and so on to select the person who should be in charge of the mother company, and it was me. It was really heavy responsibility. At this time, I was thinking of having my PhD, because this definitely is the second step, but I noticed that the AUC are opening a new program, which is the Executive MBA. I felt PhD is more prestigious, to tell you the truth. It's more prestigious, but the Executive MBA is more applicable. So I decided I should go for the Executive MBA. And really, it turned my career life. It gave me time for reflection. I didn't leave the work. I was working like hell. Almost I sleep 3 to 4 hours a day. Seriously, I have 3 kids, working as a CEO, reforming the company, studying. My brother is here, my daughter, they can just tell you. But really, it made a difference in my life. I had time to reflect, to come out of the work, think about things, integrate ideas and think about new things with my colleagues. Some of them were family members in family businesses, others were not. All these types of discussions, so this helped me a lot in my vision, in my strategy, in my work, and so on. So part of the development of the team or the family members, I gave advice to my cousin and my brother. I told them, you have to do a master's degree. One of them graduated from School of Business, and he's not high in the top management yet, so I asked him to join the School of Business, the master's degree of Business Administration, MBA. And the other one, he was really accelerating, and he's more towards the top management. So I give him the advice of studying executive MBA. And I told him this will shift your way of thinking, this will help you to reflect, this will even give you a break from the daily stressful work. So studying is very important, but what to study when? Maybe your work is technical, so you have to go technical. Maybe it's now the position of top management, so you have to study things related to top management. So it depends.
Yes.
I'm a very strong believer in lifelong learning. So, building on what you said, lifelong learning. So it could be at some point it's a marketing module, at some point it's a finance module, at some point it's a board module, at some point it's the executive MBA, which is a big investment, as you said, because you have to work twice as much. But I do believe that it's very important to continue to develop yourself all your life. And so the MBA is part of it, the executive MBA, but also all the other executive courses.
I want to add something very personal. When I made my first MBA, my father paid it fully. But when I want to decide to make the second one, I went to him, I told him, I want to make my second master degree. So I told him, I have a good deal for you. I'll pay 1/3, you pay 1/3, and the company pays 1/3. And he accepted this. Now when I asked my brother and my cousin, I told them, what I want to pay is just 35%, just for the commitment. And even the one who was not that much enthusiastic, I told them, I'll give you the money back if you perform well. The other one didn't know about this deal. So it became, this is the learning curve and the maturity level I'm telling you about. So what is suitable for a company is not suitable for the other in the same time. So you have to know the company is in which maturity level, and the team or the family members are in which maturity level too.
Can you reflect on the maturity level also, because it's cycles?
Yeah, it goes completely together with this idea of lifelong learning, is that you have to do what you have to do at that moment. It's true that it would be a pity to stop when you're 40 because you just did an executive MBA and that's it, you've done it. I think it's very important to continue. And again, at different stages of life, you need different skills. Like I mentioned, how to be a good board member at some point, which is different. Sometimes you will need to develop more your leadership skills. So I'm sure you had the same aim, but at INSEAD we have different levels of leadership programs based on where you stand in the hierarchy or in your development. So that's how you can adapt. At some point you need to do probably a program where you have more feedback on yourself with a 360-degree feedback from people all around you, so that it allows you to progress. So and you can't do a 360-degree assessment when you haven't worked at all yet. So of course it becomes deeper and deeper as you progress.
All right. It's time if you want to have any questions in the audience here. Any particular questions to go?
I just want to ask you about a problem that I have witnessed among my students whose parents have family business. And I have many examples of that. Is that, okay, they joined the family business, they could take an executive MBA, one of them actually went to INSEAD and took an MBA from there and worked for McKinsey for a number of years. Okay, but the problem came when he went back to his company, to the family business, is they have the clash of the mental model of the generations. Someone is coming in thinking that he has all the experience of INSEAD and McKinsey, and his father has experience in what he's doing, and the two clash.
Yeah.
And I have not witnessed it just once, but several times. And they want this, when this his son or whoever in this other generation comes, is that they do exactly what is in the company. And the person who comes in wants to change, and they resist the change. So, I mean, what do we do? Do you have programs for the prior generation? Because this I have witnessed in several cases.
I don't know if you had that in your company, the clash of culture. You must have had it. No?
No, actually, as I said, my father was a bit a different person, and all over, wherever I go, just people say, this is a unique model that he made the succession, and he's watching this on the ground for years now. So we didn't face this issue, thank God, but of course.
So this clash of culture is very frequent when people go study either in schools, like it could be in the US or at INSEAD, or even you go to even to do your MBA in your own country, you come back, it's a totally different culture. And the issue is that sometimes when we've gone through these studies, we're a bit happy with ourselves, right? We've done it, we are brilliant, we are surrounded with brilliant people, and so we tend to believe we know it all. And but of course, the parent also knows it all because he succeeded very well. So the question is, how do we develop our listening skills and how to accept differences and to build on differences instead of clashing? And both sides have to accept that there is a different way to look at things. Your father is irreplaceable, however, you could succeed him. We were working with a 5th generation family business last week, and they have a problem because the 4th generation told them, do your own system, write your own family charter, your own rules, and then they have done all this work together, they're very happy. And now the 4th generation says, I will appoint you, I will decide upon my rules, so you have the clash of work between the two. And we came with this sentence, the previous generation is irreplaceable, so you can't replace them in the same jobs, the same way, but you can succeed them, which means everybody has to accept that the model of the next generation will not be the same model as the model of the current generation. But how do you solve that? How do you discuss about that? That's by coming together. I know the school has a program here where you come as a team, so both generations could come together, experience case studies together, and communicate together, because it's really a matter of accepting the other person, the other viewpoint. And I think we always say, the previous generation should be able to let go, but we forget that the next generation should be able to let go of too many certainties as well, or sometimes to be patient. So both sides need to let go and to listen to the other, and to really, I would say, praise the other, because each one is bringing something different. This being said, it's not always very easy conversations, not always successful.
May I add 2 things? The point that we send our sons or daughters to study outside without having a practical practice on the ground and feeling the culture, feeling the company, feeling the environment and so on, this is a mistake done by the parents. We should not just send your kids outside and study the best thing and then come and look at things from top. Because it's totally different culture. Culture is very important. So if I decide to send my kids maybe at university level, but they have to work in the company or outside the company, and then join, if this is the roadmap in the company, to get the feeling of the culture, to get to know a lot of things, and then maybe do their master's degrees and come back. When they come back, they even should not go direct to the top management. They have to at least start by middle, maybe lower management, to take it up through the ladder in order to get the feeling, not just to sit there and give commands. So this is one side, and the other thing, definitely what you have said, which is the 2 ways. I also was blessed with my father, and he is my brother and daughter again. He said, I made the right decision for this company. The company has excelled in its progress and success when I handed the company to, thank God, to me. So he saw it, that this is better for the company, and he felt it, and he even announced this, that this was really a good step for the success of the company.
This requires, if I may, a lot of humility on your father's side, if you want to see the company succeed without him, you need to be very humble, I think, to succeed, in transmitting your business to the next gen. I don't know if you feel that.
I feel the same, and I already planning my succession plan, and I hope that the people I'm depending on for the succession plan, that they will carry this on. Of course, nothing is by force, it's by choice, but we work in publishing, education, cultural. We work in something very important. We affect the people's life, way of thinking, and so on. So the person who should lead these companies, we have other real estates and so on, we don't care so much about it. And even sell it, buy it, this is not the issue. The issue is with the publishing, the content group, because this has effect on everybody. So whoever is going to manage this company must be a good person, well-balanced, well-polished. Continuous development is one of our values, I want to tell you. And allow me just to reflect on New York Times, had just maybe a few weeks ago, they were talking about the case of the owner of Fox News, Hollywood, and so on. He sold out the Hollywood studios, which represents more than 65% of their wealth, but he kept all the empire of media that affects the news and the way of thinking of the people and so on. He kept it for the family, and the whole article was talking about the family business and the succession. He has 4 sons. He's going to hand over the company to whom? And most probably, more than 90%, he would handle the company to his son, who thinks exactly like him. He's more towards of course, it affects the politics, has a great effect on the way of people thinking and decision making and so on. So the son who thinks like him is the one who most probably would take over this company. Why? Because there is a message behind it. There is an impact to the society behind it. It's not just a matter of money.
If I may, what I hear what you say, that there's a sense of a mission. So the family together has a sense of mission, and that makes you very strong.
But I'll take your question, but I just want to ask, how unfair is that to the 3 other sons who don't share the same mission or want to have their own vision of, Fox is very Republican, I'm a Democrat, how do they grow out of the family but still be there?
What is taking place now is one of the brothers, the other one, is now starting to build his own empire to balance what his brother is going to do.
And I'm not sure Robert Murdoch is the greatest example of fairness.
I don't think so. I don't think Murdoch's the whole Fox thing is iffy. Let's not go there. Omar?
Shall I ask?
Yes, please. Yeah, your voice is loud enough. God knows.
I have 2 questions and a suggestion.
ثانية واحدة عمر عشان بس التسجيل.
I have 2 questions and a suggestion. I will start first with a suggestion. Why not you and your father, you always talk about him in pride, and I always got inspired with especially elderly people who think that way, but it's not common. So why not write a book together like Mahmoud Al-Arabi did, and it was one of the best books I've ever read, and it's so inspiring. And I don't know if you have done this or not already. Oh yeah, really? Oh, okay. So this is the suggestion, and the 2 questions are, it might have happened, it might not, that it has hit you in the personal level, in the family, between family members, the hierarchy at Nahdet Masr, who gets appraisal or who not, and how this links to the personal level in the family gatherings and whatever. So how did you deal with that? The first question. The second question is, since I'm a candidate for the EMBA, the coming program, so I'm interested to learn from you more about the details of how it helped you in your work, other than reflecting. I understand this because I have a Master's of Finance here and as well. I'm a mechanical engineering graduate from INSEAD, and I have my Master's in Finance. And I'm enrolling in the EMBA, so I want to know more about how it helped in work.
Thank you.
Have a nice
Thank you.
Yeah, and he loves studying apparently,
So I am proud and honored to publish, that I have published Mahmoud Al-Arabi's book. And for the suggestion that you said that we should do jointly one book, it's a good idea, but I have been asking my father to write his own story for years. After 3 years of just begging and so on, I got him a very honest journalist who sat with him and he wrote his book, but he didn't publish it yet. I don't know why, but finally he wrote it.
Okay.
So this is one thing. The other thing, sorry?
One step close.
Yeah. The other thing, actually, some people ask him even to travel to the Gulf and talk more about his experience. We are always happy to join because this is very important to share. The concept of even, for example, I give you a reflection. Why I'm the founder of Adventures? Because while doing the MBA, I started mentoring startups. I liked the idea. I went to the family. I told them, why not we can do this with startups in our field and support startups generally. This will affect our business definitely in a positive way. And the same from the other side, you are giving back to the society. So the concept of giving back to society is very important. So we are happy always just to have something to say to the people, to help and so on.
And the second question.
Very important.
Very important.
A lot of things maybe I can tell you about them. Yeah. When I joined Nahdet Masr from day one. After my graduation, I love what I'm doing. As actually you said, I am a mission and a purpose driven. I go to work for a reason. It's not a matter of money, ever. Money is very important, but if I stay at home, my father will give me what I want, my husband will give me what I want, and so on. I'm not worried about money, thank God, thank God. But there is a mission behind my work. I work in something very important. I'm giving to my society, helping the youth, the children, the adults, so on, to give them continuous development and learning and so on. So from this perspective, I have been working like hell. And as I said, I helped my father in opening 3 different companies, and after a while he decided that I should be the vice president of 3 companies at a certain point in time. But this was all the time draining from my effort and time and so on, but I never had this concept of continuous learning from the academic side after I finished, of course, my first master's degree. So I felt, no, I have to make a stop and add more to my knowledge to make sure that I am taking the right decision in this company. I'm responsible for this company. The decision I'm taking, I should be confident of. This is one thing. The other thing, when I managed the company, I wanted to make a real reform, change management, as the book says. It was difficult for me to do it. I'm not so sure of the decisions. Selecting the top managers, because I have to recruit a whole line of top managers from multinationals and so on. I have to have an additional layer on top to help me with this reform. So to interview these people and to get the best caliber really.
It's a challenge by itself.
Yes, exactly. While doing my executive MBA, whenever I take a module, I go back to work, I reflect, and even during the module itself, I have time to reflect, so it's perfect. A rush of ideas come to me during class.
Visit again in the next one. Every time you want to join again.
I won't actually tell you the truth.
All right.
I told them I'm going to study with you again. So really, it gives you time to reflect, and it assures you of your decisions, and helps you very much in telling this is a professional employee or a manager that I want to recruit, and this is not. It became easier and difficult, because for me to get the caliber I want, sometimes it takes 3-4 months. I tell them, this is not the right person, this is not the right person, and so on.
So good. There's one. Yes, we had a question from Safa. Let's Safa, please. You had a question, right?
Yes, my question relates to the concept of governance and family businesses. At the moment, the influence of the new generation in family businesses as having proper governance in it. So, can you share with us experiences, examples, or case studies from INSEAD, and Dalia can share with us her experience with her company in having a proper governance structure for the fund?
It's interesting because I've been thinking that one topic we have. Let's just speak first.
Would you like some warm tea, right?
Yeah. I'll just take warm.
Do you want to wait till you come?
Warm tea.
She'll get it.
Have a seat and then.
So let's just speak first.
Okay. Corporate governance. Corporate governance is a key. To tell you the truth, I personally know it by heart. I studied in the AUC. I know how it's done. We have done it to an extent. We are working now on developing this more because you have a percentage in the board members that should be independent board members. Maybe we did not yet reach what we want, but we are in the process. And we have been meeting a lot of very professional people who want them to join the company. Having a proper governance should start by the holding and then all the other companies. A very good step has been taken by, again, my father, that he gets the CEO of the holding is a non-family member. And he has not even been working with the group, so he's 100% independent, as the book says. And we are now having people joining even this holding company as board member, external board members. And it's very important to have at least 3. Maybe the whole board should be 3. My father, of course, is a member of the board now, but even if you just have the 3 of them, fully independent board members, this will be great for the whole family for several reasons. We have now 6 companies, 6 CEOs. This position is led by family members, but who will tell them that you are not doing properly? The person who's saying this now is my father and the CEO of the holding, but still sometimes it's my father.
Structure, did you design it or did you hire an external consultant to do that?
8 years ago we hired an external consultant to help us in the reform and to help us in the board setting, and they actually made a whole study for the whole company and a study for us, as I said. And as I told you, even all the family members and top managers had the psychometric assessment to evaluate them. And besides the evaluation of the whole company from the HR, from the processes and etc. And we ended up that we have the head of the consultancy firm to be a board member to make sure that the execution of our plan is on the ground, it's going to take place. So this is the maturity level I'm telling you. So from just no board meetings to having an external consultant and then having someone in the board and then putting criteria for the board selection and having the majority of the the board members to be non-executives and independent. This is very important.
Yeah.
And this actually takes away a lot of the problems of the family that you are shy to tell someone about the evaluation and the performance and so on. This makes the family relation in good terms, and someone else, professional, is taking over this from your side.
Thank you. That was exactly what I was about to say. I was realizing that in the whole discussion we had not talked about the importance of independent in helping the discussion between the 2 generations. And one of the French companies that are very active in the family business sector now, the leader of the business organized the board with 4 outsiders and himself, and he told them, you will be the ones deciding if my son is able to take over and when he is able to take over. That's very reassuring for the father, for the son, and for the siblings of the potential person. So this is really a very important aspect. And now talking about governance, so the first step is really to professionalize your board, and then the second step is also to professionalize the rules of the game for family members We talked about what are the rules for joining the business. This is in the family charter, and it's important to set up, what will be the conditions for you to work in the business? How will it take place? You said you had all these psychometric tests. It's very interesting. And also sometimes to create an owners board or a family council. It's about the same thing. It has different names where the family can meet, share information, communicate, and it's not as part of the board, so the board is professional with family and non-family usually, but then you have a place where the family can discuss.
Actually, we have done so. We have done a family board, we have made elections, we have made the committees, we have set our strategy as a family, our vision and mission and strategy and values. We worked on constitute. We have one that all of us have signed on. So this part, we have done it, it took from us around a year and a half to 2 years. And a good thing also is taking place annually, maybe we have to increase it, is that we make a family gathering outside the Cairo for the whole family members, the second, third, and fourth generation.
There's a question here. How many? Is there any other questions? Because we do have time for like 1 or 2 questions. Please go ahead. Your voice. If you don't want to talk, it's fine. Are you sure? You have a whole week ahead of you.
I have 2 quick questions. The first one is, how do you convince family members? And for example, I'm working with my father and my uncle, and they're both very, very different management styles, and both of them are traditional in different ways. So to tell them and convince them to pay for an external consultant to come in and give them advice is very difficult. I've tried. Even to do a job master and to hire a consultant for creating a benchmark for employees on its own took 2 years for convincing. That's one thing. The other thing, as a woman in Egypt, if you're leading a family business, it's very difficult. So how do you deal with it, especially if you're in a male-dominated company, being the youngest, and how do you also deal with, staying alone a lot in the office when your team is everywhere outside and you are working mostly alone, and being someone who's young, it's very challenging.
You were listening to the MBA? Sorry? You معنا في MBA?
No, no.
عايزين نساعدك يعني. Let us know how we can help you further.
Do you have a very close friend to your father or your uncle that you are also close to him or her? You need someone else, not you, to discuss these issues with them. Of course, the AUC, if they made this role by increasing their programs, by inviting the father and the children in several sessions, of course, this is perfect. But maybe don't have this opportunity by talking to a very close friend and they talk to them. This would be one step. And for you to convince them, you have to have some ground. They have to gain confidence in you. You have to work on yourself first in making some kinds of achievements and show them that you are an achiever. They will start listening. Yes, we want to listen to her. She has something to add. This is very important. You have to prove yourself for them till they gain confidence in you to an extent, so they are going to start listening. And of course, putting pressure through their peers, friends, is very important. Coming back to the point of being a woman and a lady and so on, to tell you the truth, and one of the panels when I had a minister, she was a lady, and someone from the parliament, and myself, and I said this comment, and the moderator didn't like it, but this was the case. I was not planning to be this was not in my dreams, to be the CEO and chairperson of the company. I never thought about it. I just want to do my work properly. So aiming for the position is not the thing. It's aiming to do the job and do your work professionally and from the heart. This is the point. You will prove yourself and it's going to be obvious for everyone. This is one thing. The other thing, being a lady, being a man, this is something that you feel. Yes, of course, people are doing it. Sometimes they make you feel it, but you have to tell yourself, I am a human being, I'm an independent human being, I'm exactly like the man. We have sometimes different roles and we respect the differences. And we respect them, and sometimes I make use of having male members in the family. And when I have a meeting, people coming from the Gulf, especially Saudi Arabia, if they are big people, I insist that they should meet my father. And if they are young people, one of my brothers should be with me, and if there is none of them in this part of the business, I have to have several employees, men, to attend with me the meetings. And sometimes, even I had a mega project with the Minister of Education in Saudi Arabia. I am the CEO of the company, I'm a lady, I know quite well that this was not acceptable so much. I used to travel with minimum of 2 men or 3, and usually I don't talk. I give them the leadership. And whenever it's very important, essential that I talk, I just talk. But this is rare now, this is fading out. So, inshallah, you will not be facing this so much. Change the way of thinking. You are strong, you are an independent person with the capabilities. There is no difference between men and women, except that we respect these differences. These are important. And it's nice to have these differences, but the difference gives you an edge even. Sometimes you tell you are emotional. This is a bad thing. This is not a bad thing. Sometimes your emotions help you to understand this person.
Compassion.
This person is good, he's doing the work by heart. This type of feeling, you can feel it much better. Make use of this part.
Yeah, and sometimes women will be seen more because we are less numerous. Then there's a very famous business person in Saudi Arabia, alumna, who is absolutely fantastic woman. And she's now 60 something, I guess. But she's very visible and she promotes women. And it's in Saudi, in a very classical environment, I would say. So it can happen. I can think of another very prominent businesswoman in the Emirates, Fatima Al-Jaber. So you can be in an environment that you would think would be traditional, but you can actually have your chance if you take it, right?
And what about convincing the father to make an investment in a consultant?
Yeah, well, family businesses don't like consultants too much. And I would say your advice would to go through with friends. I would try to take him to conferences as much as possible, because the 3-day program might be too big of a change for him or your uncle. But if you could try to, instill little things, examples, bring to conferences. A friend has used a consultant, or just, kind of raise the awareness little by little. Not just come with, we need to do this, because this will not work, of course. So that would be my advice.
Thank you. Yes.
This opens up a channel for you to make a lot of conferences about family business.
Yeah, exactly.
Bring him here. I have to say, I invited part of the alumni applicants for the program. There's some resistance from the parents, and I've been to visit the company and the firm, and I wanted both of them, the parent and the son, to come just to listen to this discussion. So you're right.
By the way,
like
you know what we did in Lebanon? I was in Lebanon in October, and so there was a big business with a very strong senior generation. And so what we did, instead of inviting them to the meeting, we all went, but with all the guests from other businesses, we all went to the headquarters. They were hosting the other family businesses. So it was our way to reach out. So the whole family were there.
That's very good. Yes, if you can actually move the mountain,
Your
see somebody over there. All right, any other questions? Any further questions? All right, in like 1 minute, can you wrap up a word of wisdom for those, should I join the family business, right?
Communicate. There are more options than you think, and use other people, either it's outsiders, uncles, friends, outside board members. So 3 messages: communicate, more options than you think, and use of externals.
Okay. First of all, think of your dream. because you definitely have your own, but put in mind that a lot of people are jealous of you because you are in a better position. You have a legacy that you can step on and enrich what you are doing much. It's cool, sometimes difficult, but at the end it's easier to step on something strong and solid. Of course, I don't know how the companies you already work in or your family business is, but you have something that has been built. When you build on it, it's much easier to separate in some cases. So if you have this dream, it's perfect. If it is not in your way at all, then it's fine. This is acceptable. You should convey the message to your family in a good communication way. It's going to be hard, I'm sure, but okay, do whatever you want. But believe me, my son is 15 years old. His friend told him, you are born with a golden spoon.
Yeah.
You have a family legacy, you can just step on it. This is how people see the family business. And for us, we have an 81 years company. There are other publishing houses that have been in the market for 100 years. They didn't make use of this history. You cannot buy history. You cannot. So build on the history if you have some passion, because you can accelerate much more and you can do miracles with the existing companies with some effort, definitely, but you can do a lot instead of just starting from scratch. And even if you have another dream, you can start your dream working on the family business name, who are, of course, these families have good reputation. Build in it, but respect it, because this is something very important to take care of.
That's amazing. I have to clap with you. Thank you very much. It's been a great audience, and of course, there's more refreshments outside, and we can do one-on-one discussions. Please join us if you have class. Dr. Moga, there's a break for them. Some of you, maybe, right?
Yeah, we meet in our classroom.
Okay.